So tomorrow I have to help Sue Janegi at the central office over there at the junior high we're working on trying to become STEM certified in the state of Indiana, which would be really super awesome. It doesn't really like mean anything necessarily to you guys, but as a professional and as a community, it would be really, really cool. So we've been working our tails off on doing this. And the deadline to submit is Friday. So we're doing a big push tomorrow to upload some stuff. So I will be here for the test. But if you hear that I have a sub, it's because I'm going to have a sub first period. I'm going to have a sub third period. I'm going to have a sub fifth period. Okay. My prep is fourth. Okay. So that means I will be here. But if you're like, oh, there's no test because Burnworth's not here. Okay. I am here. Okay. We will do the test. Okay. And so there you go. Okay. So I will be here for you guys. For us, but like the other class. Oh, the other class. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Greta's watching my fifth period class. Deb is going to watch my third. And then my first period class, I have two aides in that class, so they're going to hang. So it'll be good. It'll be good. My aides are Miss Melissa and Briley Kerr. They're awesome. I love them. Briley Kerr. So okay. So that's that. So once again, okay, I do not know what bones I'm picking, and they won't be necessarily the same bones second period as sixth period as seventh period. Okay, I'm just gonna throw the bones up here on my desk and go for it. Of course, you're still welcome. I've had a huge crew coming in throughout the day, okay, at different classes to study the bones, to work with people, to work with siblings. It's so cool. Okay, and but I don't know what else to do for you. Okay, right? We've been working on this for 5 weeks, I feel like, right? Okay, at least 4. Okay, it is time. Okay, you've got to put forth this effort. Okay, and I really, really want you to do well tomorrow. Okay, yes, you had a question. Yes. Like this whole thing. How many people have to be out for us to? It's a great question. I have no idea about that sort of thing. It seems like some schools get out with 2 cases. Some people get out with them. Right? Yeah, someone is 110. There was one student in one class. Yeah. Today. I have no idea. I have no idea. They canceled for 2 weeks. Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. I can't speak to this. You know, technically, you know, I don't know, man. It's a crazy thing. I cannot speak to it. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Because yeah. All right. Here's what. All right. All right, real quickly. I'm going to give you some time to sit here in a minute, but I want to show you a quick video, and I don't want to tell you what the diagram looks like. You can make this up. Don't say anything, Bella. Okay, but you tell me what you think the diagram looks like in this picture. I will forever be changed after this individual, AKA Lace Blocker, told me, she's like, I can't stop looking at this video because of what I think it looks like. So I had never noticed that before, never thought about it, but now I can't get it out of my head. Thank you, Lace. Okay, so we've been talking about osteocytes, osteoclasts, osteoblasts, chondrocytes, all these things. I told you the story kind of at the beginning, how the love of my high school life, Emily, and I dissected that Dalmatian, and it was cartilaginous, right? I talked a little bit about, I think I told this class, maybe I feel like I didn't tell one class, but my niece, Sid, my brother's daughter, got a buckle fracture when she pressed her arm down as she fell off of a slide. It broke her radius because it buckled because of the fact that it was still partly cartilaginous. The bone is not formed. Okay, so how do we go from bone to cartilage? We're gonna look at that right now. I don't know why I like this guy's voice and I like his delivery. Okay, so we're gonna talk about this as it kind of goes along.
Hi guys, in this lesson we are going to examine bone development again, and specifically endochondral
oh dear God, it is. That is.
This method is going to be used for the vast majority of bones in your body. And with the clavicle as an exception, it will be used for all bones below your skull. So all bones below the skull.
Yeah, that's what she said, and I was like, oh,
With
gosh.
intramembranous ossification, I had stated that it was the primary method within the first 2 months of fetal development. But after that time, we see endochondral ossification become the primary bone formation method. The key point that your body has achieved by this stage in fetal development is that the majority of the skeletal framework is hyaline cartilage. So
Okay, remember we had those 3 cartilages, right? We had elastic, fibrocartilage, and hyaline cartilage. Yeah, it's the one that looked like the nose, right? All of our bones, hyaline cartilage. That just, man, it rocks my world.
this will be the blueprint that endochondral ossification will use. Now that we know those key factors that endochondral ossification needs, let's take a step-by-step look at what's actually happening in the process. So the first thing that we're going to see happen here is that the perichondrium is going to become vascularized.
Okay, what's vascularized mean? What do you think? It's something we talked about yesterday. Okay, yeah, veins and arteries. So notice there's no veins and arteries in there yet. That's a game changer. When those veins and arteries get in there, things get weird.
So the perichondrium is the outer layer of this cartilaginous tissue in the forming bone. And it's going to be penetrated by these tiny blood vessels that are going to start delivering nutrients to that area. So that perichondrium is vascularized. Next, what we're going to see is after that area has become vascularized, those blood vessels are going to start delivering nutrients that are going to stimulate those mesenchymal cells that remain there to differentiate into osteoblasts. And we learned previously that osteoblasts are cells that form bone or deposit osteoid. So we'll just draw quickly on here that these are mesenchymal stem cells that are sitting in this area are actually going to start to differentiate and change and commit their form.
It doesn't help that it's red, right?
Now, once they've become osteoblasts, they're going to start to gather along the diaphysis wall. And the diaphysis wall is just the outer edge of those long bones.
Okay, so let me just tell you this. I mentioned it before briefly, but the ends of the bones are epiphysis. The shaft is the diaphysis. He pronounces it the diaphysis. Okay, so but epiphysis, diaphysis. Okay, and that's just 2 areas on long bones, especially.
Once again, we'll just draw that up here so we can get an idea of what's actually going on. So they're gathering at the diaphysis wall to form a bone collar. So these osteoblasts we can see gathering here along that wall are going to start depositing osteoid and forming a bone collar. And we'll just highlight that in there so that we can see this is bone that's starting to form around here. And it's going to go all the way around that diaphysis. We'll just point out as well that this central point here that this whole process has started from is actually called the primary ossification center. So the primary ossification center is going to be our starting point for endochondral ossification. And the last thing we'll point out before we move on to our next step is that all of this central blue area is currently hyaline cartilage. In this second phase of endochondral ossification, what we are going to see is that the formation of the bone collar will cause chondrocytes that remain within that central cavity to enlarge and send a signal to the surrounding cartilage to calcify. Now, chondrocytes are just those cells that were responsible for building the initial hyaline blueprint. What this calcification is going to cause is an impermeability toward the inner portion of that developing bone. Due to the cells remaining in that area no longer receiving the nutrients they need for survival. Now, when those nutrients can no longer come in, what it's going to cause is cell death of those cells in that area.
Is cell death a good thing or a bad thing?
Yes and no.
Yeah, we want cells to definitely die at some point. If cells don't die, what happens to them?
Cancer.
Cancer, right? And cancer's bad. Bone cancer, by the way, real bad. Like real bad.
There we go. So we'll just draw that here. Nutrients are trying to go in, but they can no longer diffuse through that area. Once the cells have died and that matrix begins to deteriorate, a central clearing will start to form. So I'll just draw that on here, the central clearing. So we can see just in here. But if we think about it, when hyaline cartilage is deteriorating and a cavity is forming, how will the structure be supported? This is when we have to remember that a bone collar has already formed around the outer edge of that diaphysis. So it's supported by bone already, and we'll just show that here.
So that outer part's the bone part, right?
While this is all occurring at that primary ossification center, there is still going to be healthy chondrocytes further toward the distal ends of the bone that are still producing cartilage matrix and in charge of elongating that structure, as I'll just show here. So the bone is still getting longer with the deposition of more cartilage. Now, if we move on to the next step, the first thing we are going to see is that there is a new structure appearing in the middle of the bone. This structure is called a periosteal bud, and it will be in charge of directing new bone growth from here. So I've got written here that this periosteal bud will invade that cavity, and it's going to cause the formation of spongy bone. And the reason it does that...
Remember, spongy bone is cancellous bone. So we're going to start with the spongy in the middle, okay? But also notice that we've got some weird stuff going on the bottom and the top, okay? Yes.
So this is kind of a weird question, but like, you know, when you finish this like one like slide, like how we went to like a new page?
Yeah.
Do you think when it's like all done, you could take a screenshot? And
Yeah.
send them and,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
print those or
Yeah,
something?
sure. That'd be great.
is because that periosteal bud that's going into that central area consists of an artery, vein, lymphatics, nerves, and it's also going to deliver osteogenic cells. So it consists of all those different vessel types. And we'll just write that all here as well. So this is the periosteal bud. It's developing from here. So when I say that it's going to be delivering osteogenic cells, what I mean is it's going to be delivering cells that are involved in either the building or degrading of bone tissue or bone matrix. So osteoblasts or osteoclasts. Now, clasts are in charge of degrading and blasts are in charge of building. So we'll write that down here quickly and then I'll show you on the illustration.
We talked a
So
lot
if
about
we want to remove that cartilage,
those osteoclasts breaking down bone, but they'll also break down cartilage as well.
okay, we've got that all written up. Let's have a look at where it's actually occurring. So we've got these osteoclasts that are going to be positioned where the cartilage ends, and it's going to be degrading that cartilage matrix tissue. So there's room for new bone to be grown in there. So that one's our clast cell. Now we've got these osteoblasts all through this central kind of cavity area now, building and depositing new spongy bone matrix. So that's building and that's blast cells. The last step that we're going to notice here is that this bone is still elongating. So we have those chondrocytes still depositing new cartilage further up towards those epiphyses. So it's elongating still. We'll just draw arrows in that direction here to show where it's being
So it kind of
elongated.
grows from the middle out.
And now when we move on to the next phase, we're going to see a few more differences again. This central cavity we can see now is almost completely spongy bone. So the primary ossification center is going to continue to enlarge. Just drawing that up here quickly as well, that primary ossification center is enlarging. Earlier on, we had the osteoclasts degrading their cartilage matrix so that new room for spongy bone could be made. But now they have another role as well. They're going to start degrading the most central portion of our spongy bone so that the early stages of the medullary cavity can be developed. And we'll show that here. So we have these osteoclasts that are degrading and breaking down this central portion of spongy bone now that were deposited earlier by the osteoblasts. Just writing here now that that's where the medullary cavity start to be formed. The medullary cavity we know in a mature long bone is going to be where we're going to store fat.
So those are the areas where the marrow is. The medullary cavity is kind of like that middle. So when we saw it drill down into the shaft of the femur and that yellow stuff came out, that was that medullary cavity, that cavity where the fatty marrow is. The spongy is when he pushed down to test that compressive strength. Does that make sense, sir?
Show that it's an empty area in here is the early stages of that medullary cavity that the osteoclasts are working on clearing. Now that the bone is almost at its full length within the initial ossification period, chondrocytes will only deposit new cartilage within the developing epiphyses, which are just the ends of the bone. So we can see on here that cartilage is only being deposited up within this area now in the epiphyses. Now that the cartilage is only forming up in those epiphyses, we're going to have those osteoblasts now depositing bone at the beginning of those epiphyseal surfaces, so the start of the epiphyseal plates. Just drawing that.
Those plates, you mentioned the plates, that's the growth plates. And some people have problems when their bones grow too fast. They get something called Osgood-Schlatter's. Okay, wear a brace. Yep.
Now we've got a bony deposition here at those epiphyses.
Isn't that an almost?
And we'll have that.
What's that? Everybody's got a growth plate. Some people just have more issues with it.
The last thing you're going to see up the
What's that?
I thought the bone at this point was almost empty.
top here
Yeah, it's
is
getting
that I've drawn in a secondary ossification center,
Yeah.
and it's going to appear at either one or both ends of the epiphyses of the developing bone.
Oh,
Now, it's
yeah,
not going
I
to
know.
start ossifying that area quite yet. That doesn't usually occur until after birth. So that's going to remain as cartilage until after birth. So we've made it to our last step of the endochondral ossification now. And I'll just write down quickly again that those epiphyses, secondary ossification centers, were only going to appear after birth. So they'll remain hyaline cartilage until then. Just earlier as well, I also said that the secondary ossification center will appear at either one or both ends of the epiphyses. Now, it's good to point out that usually in the longer or larger bones, there will be two secondary ossification centers. We are never actually named the bone that we're seeing develop here, but for the sake of pretending it's a larger bone that's going to have two of those secondary ossification centers, we'll write down that it's going to be the humerus. So we'll say this is the humerus, the long bone of the upper arm. And if it was, it would have two of those secondary ossification centers. So one at the top and one here at the bottom. So just to clarify with the different types of bone that we have in the body, short bones are more likely to have only one center. And your irregular shaped bones like the vertebrae and the pelvic bones, they may have several. So if we were examining the bone development after birth now, we would only see cartilage remaining on the surfaces of the bone and at the epiphyseal plates. So within those ossification centers, you are going to get a spongy bone within those epiphyses now, where we're going to store that red marrow. So we can see we have the articular cartilage on the surface of the bone that is going to protect and lubricate our joints to aid in movement. Articular cartilage, just write that here. And we can also see that we've got the cartilage within the epiphyses, so around here. So the top and bottom epiphyses. And they're going to play an important role in growth that we will discuss in another video. Now, this is all the steps of endochondral osteoporosis.
Okay, what I'll do here, I like that idea of maybe taking a screenshot. For some reason, when I watched this, it just clicked for me. I liked this guy's voice, and I liked kind of how he explained some things. So I'll give you this video, but I like this idea. So take that screenshot there of the pads, right? Here we got our nice little pads going. Thank you, Lace, and everyone else who thought that looked like a pad. I'll put this on Google Classroom.
Oh, wait,
Again-
it's gonna be covered.
Oh, yeah, there you go. There we go. Let's try it like this time. Then we'll get the last one here. Come on, move. There we go.
Oh, it's
I
not
think
all
you
the
still
way.
got a little more.
There you
Yeah,
got a little bit more? Nope, no more.
No, you didn't.
yeah, you
Let it play
do.
a little bit.
Really? Oh,
And we can also see that we've got the
I think
There
that
you
was
go.
it. There we go. Thanks. All right. So that's how you make a bone.
And then, okay, so
Yeah.
between the head and the shaft,
Yeah.
then there's
Yeah.
still cartilage in between them, so it can grow.
Yeah.
So it can elongate.
Here's another picture that kind of shows this.
Oh, yeah, it's exactly what.
Yeah, there's that kind of cartilaginous area still there. That's that epiphyseal plate, but eventually it will harden.
Will you
So there's
always
no
have
cartilage
spongy?
left. The cartilage will always be just at the end of the bones.
That's
Car-
what I thought, but
Yeah.
I wasn't sure after I got a
Well,
little confused.
Great questions. Great questions.
Well,
All right, that's all I got. I'm gonna upload that stuff for the kids who didn't see it.
Can you print
Okay.
the pictures?
Sure, I can print that off for you. Sure. All right. Any questions at home? If not,
I do.
Hi there, Bob.
Hi.